Hey guys, welcome back to the Awesome Lindsay channel. So one weekend, my friend John, who's been in a few of my videos, I'll post some links and some cards so you can check them out. He rented a Canon R5 and I have a Canon 5D Mark III. And we rented a studio because I kind of wanted to try them out and see the difference. Just kind of curious, like, hey, how does this compare to my 5D Mark III that I've had since pretty much it came out, I want to say 13 years ago, somewhere around there. We rented a studio for 2 hours. I was able to shoot with it for maybe, 10, 20 minutes because I also wanted to do the photo shoot and not be just messing around with the camera the whole time. I wanted to be able to give the model back some images for her time. So he rented it with a 85 1.2 lens, and then I brought along my 85 1.2 lens just to have a pretty apples to apples comparison. And if you look at these pictures, you'll notice that the lens is a little bit longer. It's kind of bigger all around. It is lighter all around, but the reason is because the body is thinner, and then physics dictates that. All right, let me see if I can jump in here and explain the way this body to lens ratio works with the f-stop formula, because you need a certain distance between your sensor and your, I believe it's the end of the lens. And this is a very, very basic explanation. This is a picture I took at the shoot of the two cameras sitting on a table. So let's say the end of your lens element on your R5 lens is right here, and then you have your sensor right here, and that's what this little indication is. It's your sensor mark. So if I have a certain distance between the last bit of the last element and the sensor. So if I come over here and I duplicate this layer, and obviously this is very non-scientific, but if I move it over here and I line up the lens mark on the Mark III to the end element on the Mark III, you have pretty much the same distance. So since the body is longer here than it is here, you need to make it up with the lens distance to get your f-stop. The front element is the same. The back element sits very close to the edge of the back of the lens. I thought it would be a little bit different with the newer 85, but you still have to be just as careful with that one as the older one. All right, so going over here and looking at the images, I had the model get into a pose and then hold the pose so I could take a shot with either camera. And I started out with the 5D Mark III. My settings are ISO 200 and then 1.4 and then obviously 85 millimeters. So on that one, here's how the image looks. And then if we go over here to the original shot of ISO 200 and f1.4, you can see that it's, I want to say it's almost a stop brighter than the 5D Mark III. So as you all know, that the sensor is a lot more sensitive to light. So ISO 200 looks brighter. So if I drop the ISO down to 100 on this image with the R5, it starts getting closer to the 5D Mark III. So here's the 5D Mark III with ISO 200, and then the 5D or the R5 with ISO 100. Another thing I noticed was the lens, it seems a little bit more even with lighting. So there's not, on the 5D Mark III here, you have, seems to be kind of a hot spot in the middle. Then if you go back to the other one, to the R5, if I go into Lightroom and I add some lens corrections here, so then if I A/B them, this is the R5, this is the Mark III, the hotspot kind of goes away a little bit because it brings it takes away a lot of the vignetting on the 5D Mark III, so it evens it out a little bit. And then I noticed the colors were a little bit warmer on the 5D Mark III than they are on the Canon R5. It seems like the colors are cleaner, I want to say, straight out of the camera on the R5. It's more of an opinion-based thing. I'm used to the warmth, I guess, so I'm kind of digging how warm they are out of the camera. But like I say, with the R5, I guess you have a little more leeway to go warmer or cooler and make some decisions artistically that way. So we're gonna move on to this second shot. This is her just on the stool here. I have ISO 160 on the Canon 5D Mark III. and then I have ISO 100 on the R5, and I did that because I knew that the 5D Mark III was darker in terms of ISO than the R5, so I bumped that up a little bit. And you can still tell that the R5 is just a little bit brighter, so I probably would have to have gone up to ISO 200 on the 5D Mark III to get this similar sort of look that I'm getting out of the Canon R5. So again, it's brighter. And then we can go into lens corrections here on the Mark V, and then lens corrections on the 5D Mark III. So, and then again, you'll notice that straight out of the camera on the 5D Mark III, the skin tones are warmer, the whole thing is warmer overall. And then if you go back over here to the Canon R5, it's a little bit neutral. I would say neutral, but it looks cooler when you're coming from the warmer tones of the 5D Mark III. I think if you look at it straight off, it looks more on the neutral side. So I'm gonna go back to this original shot of her standing against the wall, and I'm gonna bring in a color picker and then just adjust the photo's white balance off of this brick here. The Canon R5 goes to temperature 6800 Kelvin with a +11 tint, and then the 5D Mark III goes to 5900 Kelvin with a +6 tint. So it still seems a little bit warmer in skin tone on the Mark III. So those are the two. The R5 is on the left, the 5D Mark III is on the right. So the one thing that you'll notice in between the two is the sharpness, though, is the R5 is a lot sharper compared to the 5D Mark III. You'll notice you can zoom in a little bit more because of the megapixel, and yeah, you can see just in the eyelashes and the eyes right out of the camera, the 5D is a little bit sharper. Now I do know that the lens, the 85 1.2 on my 5D Mark III's body is a little bit softer, so I probably would need to send them into Canon or do the back focus thingy. So I believe with a little work I could get mine quite a bit sharper than it is now, but I do know that it won't be as sharp as you see here in the Canon R5, and you don't get the megapixels obviously. But if I were to go into the develop mode and go into detail, here it is. This is the 5D Mark III before sharpening right here. Here it is after sharpening. So you'll notice it's not incredibly sharp compared to the Canon R5. So that's something you'll kind of want to take note of. It depends on what you're using your images for. I shoot as a hobbyist photographer, and 99% of my images go up on Instagram or Facebook or something. So being able to sharpen mine in Lightroom or Photoshop and post them on Instagram, to me, no one's going to really notice that quality of sharpness with where I post mine. At any rate, this is just kind of my thoughts and opinions. I wanted to see how these two cameras and lenses compared, kind of an apples to apples situation. Hopefully you found this interesting or entertaining. If you guys do have any questions, leave them in the comments field. I'll do my best to answer them. And thanks everyone for watching.